Autistic masking in men versus autistic masking in women. What are the differences? What's the overlap? Masking is naturally a very personal thing, unique to each individual person, but on the whole, there are some common patterns worth exploring. We all experience social pressure and expectations of social norms, and so while bearing in mind that anyone of any gender can employ any of these strategies at any time, you might find yourself consistently nudged towards one rather than the other. Let's take a look. Hi everyone, Paul Micallef here from Autism from the Inside. I make weekly videos sharing the human side of autism, so make sure you hit subscribe to get the latest content. So in a previous video, I explored 4 ways that autistic masking often presents itself in women. Today, we'll be looking at the typical male versions of these strategies. So you'll see lots of overlap, but also some important subtle differences. Society is constantly putting different pressures on us. So a strategy that works for you might not necessarily work for someone else in a different context. Let me give you an example. If I'm extremely frustrated at something, is it going to be more socially acceptable for me to get really angry or burst into tears? Which one is going to seem more typical and get less ridicule from my peers? So with that in mind, similar underlying strategies can have quite different presentations on the outside. Masking strategy number 1, being quiet. So in my last video, I explained how leveraging a lack of self-confidence can be a way to avoid certain social expectations. But in my culture, at least, men who have very low self-confidence do not tend to be treated very kindly. So what can I do instead? Being quiet still has its advantages. If I can find a way for people to expect me to not say very much most of the time, it covers up any uncertainty and confusion. It gives me more processing time. It means I don't have to pretend as much. But I also don't want to be perceived as having low self-confidence. So what's the more socially acceptable option? Weirdly, it can sometimes be more acceptable to be perceived as dumb or oblivious or just immature than to be lacking in self-confidence. Luckily, there are plenty of silent male tropes to pick from. I remember having a chat to a security guard once, and he said, "I'm the little one who does talk, and he's the big guy who doesn't talk." Does anyone remember Jay and Silent Bob? There are plenty of social tropes of men who suck at conversation, are poor listeners, and just have terrible social skills in general. So why not play into that? As we'll see later, it's much more acceptable for men to have a very narrow skill set and still somehow get away with it. Oh, you want me to go shopping? I don't know how to do that. You want me to make conversation? I don't know how to do that. I know about sports and not much else. Ha 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 ha. This one's all about leveraging what people will assume if I say nothing at all. I used to use this one a lot with my dreadlock strategy. Some of you may know that I got dreadlocks when I was 16. And one of the strategies that suddenly became available to me was to simply not respond. If I were asked a question at a party and I just didn't say anything, I don't know if people just thought I was too cool to answer or something, but for some reason I started to be able to get away with that. It was safer to say nothing at all and fake confidence than it was to open my mouth and show the world that I had no idea what was going on. And so the trope of the character that just sits there and takes no initiative is a good distraction from the fact that I'm actually autistic and I don't really know what's going on. The second masking strategy is the performer-conformer strategy. This is the strategy that tries to meet all of society's expectations. Now, for women, as we discussed, this often looks like trying to be perfect in every way, but my culture at least puts quite different expectations on men. We're often not expected to be good at everything so long as we're good at one thing. So this leads to an overt strategy of being really good at one thing, overcompensating with one thing, and using that to distract people's attention from the fact that I can't do very much else. Maybe you can think of some common tropes that fit this category. It plays into the social idea of the male breadwinner who has one job: earn money, provide security. If you suck at absolutely everything else, that's okay, I guess. This excuse means that I can pass off virtually everything that I'm not good at as a legitimate, reasonable cost of the value that I do provide. I sacrificed learning all those skills because I focused on learning this one. It plays into the social idea of the male breadwinner who has one job: earn money, provide security. If you suck at absolutely everything else, that's okay, I guess. This excuse means that I can pass off virtually everything that I'm not good at as a legitimate, reasonable cost of the value that I do provide. I sacrificed learning all those skills because I focused on learning this one skill. Chemically, I found school relatively easy. I was good at sitting exams, for example. So I leveraged that. Oh, you're not good at small talk? Oh, you don't have a lot of social experience? That's because I've been focusing on my study. It was the same with sports. I used to play tennis a lot as a kid. And if you're talented in one area, if you're good on the court, if you're a good team member, no one cares if you don't have any conversation skills when you're back in the clubhouse. So again, in my culture at least, and yours might be different, I've noticed that women tend to be expected to be good at everything, but men can often get away with just focusing on one thing. The third masking strategy is being cute and helpless. So what's the male version of this one? So while I can't be like cutesy in a way that women could more easily get away with, the male version of this is being charming, quirky, kind of clueless and innocent, so that when your friends can see you obliviously walking headfirst into danger, they feel compelled to jump in and save you. It elicits a similar, "oh, you're useless, let me help you" kind of attitude. So in other words, if you're weird but kind of cute and interesting at the same time, then you get this label as quirky, and that in itself overcomes a lot of the social barriers to exclusion, which means autism is less obvious. And obviously this can be used in conjunction with the other strategies, but the trick is leveraging vulnerability. And so while men in my culture are not encouraged to be vulnerable as such, we don't want to appear directly helpless. But if I'm just a little bit clueless and walk headfirst into danger, then I seem naive rather than helpless. It's all about creating a socially acceptable excuse for why I need help. An example of this is what I call the foreigner strategy. It's essentially me going into situations where I am deliberately the odd one out, and then using that as an excuse for not understanding the social norms. I'm sorry, I'm not from here. Can you help me out? In other words, I'm deliberately different in a weird, interesting, adorable kind of way, and that's the reason I need help, not because I'm autistic. A good example of this one is Abed from Community.
Abed.
Yeah.
What are you doing?
I'm being myself.
If you're kind and lovable enough, innocent enough, then people often step in and help you, just like the cute and helpless strategy we saw in the last video. The fourth common masking strategy is making excuses. And this one is fairly similar. The main difference is in the type of socially appropriate excuses. It's not so much that I'm making excuses, it's that I'm using an unquestionable get out of jail free card instead of trying to explain the more complicated answer of what's actually going on for me. So we're looking for tropes here. What stereotypes already exist that I can just borrow and use as my get out of jail free card? So two that come to mind. Oh, I'm being invited somewhere. Nah, wife wants me home. Sorry, you know how it is. Maybe that's true, or maybe it's just a convenient excuse. Another convenient excuse that's probably the most ubiquitous is pretending to be busy, or even better, actually staying busy. I only need to be good at one thing, right? Work's asked me to stay late. I've been focusing on my job. I've been doing the typical unhealthy thing that basically everyone does anyway, which is putting too much time and priority into my work and neglecting everything else. That's the reason for my unbalanced skill set. Oh, you want me to be social? You want me to be sensitive? You want me to handle difficult emotions? What trope can I think of? Oh, men don't do that. How about I just leverage the fact that so many other people already suck at this and pretend that that's the reason I suck at this too? Anyway, there's lots more examples. Hopefully I've given you a bit of a sense of what masking for men looks like versus masking for women. Ultimately, any combination or any presentation of all these things is completely unique to the individual, but the downsides of masking are universal. Masking cuts us off from other people socially. We become isolated, we feel a lack of connection, we focus on taking care of ourselves because no one else is going to be able to understand. It's a crushing burden that often ends in burnout. But it absolutely doesn't have to. The unmasking journey is often slow and difficult, but it is 100% worth it. If masking is taking one aspect of your personality and kind of stretching it over all of the others, then unmasking means nurturing all of those parts of myself that I haven't been paying attention to, that I haven't been looking after properly. Ultimately, we mask our needs, and so unmasking is asking yourself, what am I actually hiding? What needs am I not acknowledging? And how can I be true to those needs and start taking care of myself so that I don't burn out? Anyway, this is obviously a very big topic. If you haven't already seen the 2 videos I made previously on masking and unmasking in women, I'd highly recommend checking those out. The examples I give might be gender specific, but the concepts behind them apply to everyone. And if you'd like even more help on your unmasking journey, I run regular online workshops on this topic. So check out the events section of the AFTI website to see when the next one is. And if the next one hasn't been posted for any reason, just send us an email and we'll make sure you're the first to know. So as usual, thanks again for watching. Please leave a comment if you can. I'd love to hear if you use these strategies yourself and what works for you. So until next time, I hope you found this video valuable and I'll see you next week. Bye.